John Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, at 6 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting a work session on the Capital Improvement Project's GIS application.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for January 21st, 2025. As a reminder to viewers and listeners, due to the nature of tonight's meeting topic, public input is not accepted. However, you may contact the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/council contacts. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And City Attorney Brimwell.
Here.
Thank you. Our work session topic is the Capital Improvement Project GIS application. I will turn it over to GIS Coordinator Analyst Nikki Rosemeyer.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all again. See you here in a couple of weeks, probably here for his budget as well. I wanted to just kind of give you an update on the capital improvement project application that we have been working on in the GIS office, and I'm kind of excited to show it to you. I think it's pretty cool and it's pretty easy. It is something that we'll want to roll out to the public here after the council kind of gets a chance to take a look at it and give some feedback as well. We have run it past department and division managers, and we've got some great feedback for possibly not only this application, but possibly one that we would do internally as well to kind of have maybe a little bit more detail than maybe the public would be interested in, just on some other projects and stuff. So I will roll through this very quickly. It's a very easy application to use. Just kind of talk about how to use the application, and then we will jump into the application, and then there will be plenty of time for questions at the end if that works.
Hey, Nikki, could you pull the mic just a little bit, like point it up maybe a little bit more?
Yep,
I think it's
absolutely.
There, that's better. Thank you so
Perfect.
much.
Yep, no problem. I know I coach volleyball, and I always think, are the girls even hearing me? I have such a quiet voice. I don't think they hear me yelling. Okay, so here is a screenshot of the application. So you can see we've got the city of Dubuque, and there's a number of projects on the map in the middle. There is some filters on the left-hand side of the screen and a project list on the right-hand side of the screen. At the top, you can see that there are the total number of projects and the total amount of money that we are spending on our projects. And so maybe just a little bit of a review for people who are watching, and I'm not a wizard or the master of knowing all this information, but capital improvement projects are typically longer projects. They don't last for 1 year. They last over many years, and they obviously go through council. It's not something that is a one-and-done situation, and so you'll see that with start years, that there's, oftentimes there's not as many, maybe like the last couple start years, but maybe some in previous start years and things. And so, like I said, all this goes through a budget process every single year. I'm not in charge of the budget. We're just giving this information out so people can take a look at it and see how we're spending our money and where we're spending our money in the city. So tonight I'll be going through three major things here. We'll be going through the filters, we'll be going through the project list, and the map search. So first, for the filters, on the left-hand side of the screen here, I have it kind of blocked out here in red. You can search by department, funding source, or start year. And so as you click on those, the map is linked to these filters, meaning that you will only see what is being shown in those filters. So you can actually filter by a number of different things. You could say, I want to see all the engineering projects that occurred in FY24, or maybe all the ARPA-funded projects. So all the filters are easy to apply, they are easy to remove, but basically there's just kind of how you can break things down, as opposed to looking at the map and seeing everything all at once. Sometimes it's just easier to look at things by department or funding source or start year. So the project list is on the right-hand side. And so this is where you can use a search term to find a project. So I'll show you later when we dive into the application itself, but this is also linked to the map. And so when you click on one of these features, it's going to zoom in to where that location is. And you'll see on the map, when you do zoom in, you'll start to see areas as opposed to just points on the map. So the points are a little easier to see farther out, and the polygons, or the areas are easier to see when you're zoomed in. So these are all linked as well. You can see that the total cost and everything is listed there for each project. And then when we click on the map later, you'll see that all of the spending information is linked to that as well. Okay, and then the map search is the last thing here before we dive into the application. So zooming in, zooming out shows you the projects, the areas as opposed to just the points themselves. And by clicking on a project, it'll show you the budget and expenditures by year. And so this is a project that we are constantly working on. We've discussed with the budget office on updating this information quarterly. And they're pretty busy right now, so we haven't received an update from them recently, but this information will be updated quarterly by the GIS office. So basically we're mapping things out and we're inputting the data. And so the nice thing about this is because every capital improvement project has its own unique ID, we can just kind of slide the data from one database into the other without having to do a whole lot of work to get it in there. One last button I wanted to talk about here is there's a little drop down and you can add one layer to it. We only have one extra layer on the map that's not shown right away on the map, and that is our asphalt overlay projects. So I'm sure that most of the residents of the community are familiar with those, and the roads are fantastic throughout town. They always do those projects for us. You can return to original view, or you can change the base map as well. So the base map you're looking at is one that we created in-house. I'm kind of partial to it, but you can definitely add some different ones on there if you want to. Okay, so now I'm going to dive into the application itself. Okay, so that link on that last page of the presentation will get you to this application as well. So I will start on the left-hand side, and I will click on departments. And you can see that there's a search function, and there's also a drop-down of the different types of projects that are here. So I am going to pick on, let's see, who was I picking on earlier today? I think I was picking on housing and community development. Yes, I was. So when I click on housing and community development, you can see that the dots on the map go specifically to those projects that are funded through the Housing and Community Development Department, and also the number of projects at the top of the map and the total cost of those projects as well. If I click on this feature, you can see what each one is. And so there's in the CIP book, there is a little bit of a narrative about what the funding is for, how they're going to use it, and then there's also information on the budget itself. So you can see here the department, the start year, and the total cost. And for this project is $77,527. It's budgeted for fiscal year 25. It is through a community development block grant, and then expenditures are expected to be that in this year as well. So we can also zoom to that feature here, and you can see where that is located. So sometimes, it's just a little bit easier to see where things are located, and you can also pan to it as well. So I'm going to click off of that. I'm going to reset my map here, and you can see it as I'm zoomed in here that all of those different areas that are dots as you zoom out become polygons as you zoom in. And so I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to change from department to funding source. And so now we're going to look at ARPA funding. So we have 11 different projects and $70.4 million in projects for that. I'm going to zoom out here so we can take a look at where those are located. And so you're looking at a map here and you're saying, well, I don't see 11 dots. Well, some of the dots are piled on top of each other. So for example, if it's a project that is based out of City Hall and like the Municipal Services Center, because of Public Works, will have a lot of dots stacked on them. So you won't necessarily see that there's 11 dots here, but I bet if I click on one of these that there's going to be a number of different projects in each area. And so down here at the bottom here, you can see that this is one of two. I just clicked on the fire department is getting some ARPA funds, and they have two different projects here. They have the fire truck and they have a ladder truck. So again, the narrative that comes out of the CIP book and the budget and the way that the money is spent. So you can also see here, this one has some general obligation debt, I think that's what it stands for, and just the expenditures that are coming in by year and everything. So people can see, it's, obviously it's expensive to buy a truck, and obviously it's a multi-year project to fund something like that in order to get it. Okay. And then I will go to start year. So I'll just go back to FY24 for the heck of it. All right, so we can see that there are 41 projects. Again, doesn't look like there's 41 points on the map, but again, I think if I zoom down in here, we're going to start to see that there are a number of projects that are probably overlapping on different things here. So, for example, let's keep on clicking on fire headquarters. They have 5 projects that were funded in FY24 that are in this application here. So down here at the bottom of this window, you can see there's some little arrow buttons. And as I click through that, they go from one to the other. Or I can click on that bottom right corner and I can see all 5 of these different projects and click on one and see which one it is that I want to read about. So that is the filter part of this. The search, the project search over here is pretty cool. I think we just kind of entered them in by department, so they're not necessarily alphabetical order, but you can type in a word and see if this will work for me. I told Randy before I got up here, I gave it the kiss of death before I left the office because I was working on getting this updated. Okay, there we go. It was starting to. So you can see here, as I start to type in a word, it's going to start to find that word in the projects that have been funded here. So I just clicked on Birdfell Pond Detention Basin Outlet Structure. It might take a little bit for the aerial photography to update here. It's just kind of showing where these projects are located so we know where the money is being spent, how it's being spent, and then like different things. So especially with engineering projects, there's going to be different engineering services that go along with things. Obviously, projects don't just like create themselves out of thin air. The engineering services are required for different projects, and so some projects have those and some projects don't. It just kind of depends on the type of project that is being done there. Okay. So then I had hit this button here already, just like gave it away. But there's a little button here at the top of the map, and you can look at different things here. So we only have one bookmark. I just kind of have it set to City Hall, so that way if you just want to kind of go to kind of the centralized area of all the different projects in the city, it'll take you to City Hall. You can zoom out again like that from here to see different projects. I'm going to reset my filter here. Reset, select all, reset my filter. There are different layers, again, like I said, so the polygons and the points in the map are actually 2 different layers that we just leave on, and they're scale dependent, meaning as you zoom in, you're going to start to see those points go to polygons. Just it's a little bit, like I said, a little easier on the eyes to see from a point from a far out view than it is to see a polygon because it kind of gets really busy really quick. Another layer that we have added here is the asphalt overlay projects. And this is a layer that we have been maintaining in GIS, I feel like, since time began. So that's been about 19 years. But so that's about how long I've been here, that we've been maintaining these in GIS. And this basically just has some very basic information on what street was done, how many centerline miles were done, and the year that it was completed. And so I have the last 5 years color-coded in here. That show what roads were done when, and then anything in gray has been done prior to 5 years. And so, again, not only is this helpful for residents to see like when projects occurred or say, oh, I remember when they did that street, when was it? You can look at this information on here, but it's also helpful for city staff as well. So, sometimes the years go really quick, and so you kind of start to forget when you did certain projects or when certain things were funded. And so you can come in here and take a look at that information as well. All right, and then the base maps is something I talked about, changing that base map layer if you want to. Again, I say I'm a little bit partial to this one, but some people really like imagery, and so you can throw imagery on top of this. Sometimes it's a little easier to see things when landmarks stand out. For example, Bunker Hill here, that's a landmark I usually look for really quickly if I'm looking around the map and trying to figure out where I am. So there's different base maps that you can use here, including the one that we have as well. So I'm just going to leave that there. And then that's basically it for what I have for presentation for. And I was hoping you have questions to ask about the application here, or we could go from there.
Great. Well, thanks, Nikki.
Yeah.
Questions? Discussion? Yeah, Ms. Rousseau.
This is really awesome. I think it really beats looking through a big old three-ring binder of projects. I mean, this is really awesome. Did you say this is going to be available to the public?
Yes.
Is it
Yep.
now? Or?
It is. It actually is now, yes. And so after we have this meeting, I was hoping to work with Public Information Office and getting a news statement out to say that this is available so that everyone can take a look at it and see what they think.
So I assume you just go through the city website and
Yep.
type in like what
We'll
would
make a
you-
link for it, yeah. We don't have a
Okay.
link for it out there yet, but we'll have a link for it available.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great work. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, Ms. Farmer.
As a follow-up, will there be a template for us to follow, like how to proceed if one is looking for ABCD project or the difference between the filters and the product search? Will you kind of have a tutorial there for us, just or general
Yeah, I
information
can
for
definitely
us
put
to
one of
give
those
us
together.
guidance?
Yep, and that's actually something that we talked about because there's a lot of three-letter acronyms in here, more than 3 letters, but in some cases. But there's a lot of things that we, as government employees, know what that means, but the public is not going to know what that means. And so we talked about creating kind of a little cheat sheet, so to speak, of what things stand for. Because who necessarily? I mean, I guess what GEO stood for tonight, but not everybody's going to know what that means. So we're definitely going to create a cheat sheet that'll be available along with this website as well.
Okay, great. That's great guidance, especially if people are looking for budget information
Right.
compared to projects that they see in their neighborhood, as an example, or that they wish were in their neighborhood.
Right.
To have some voice about maybe if you can do it A, B, C, D here, can we do it in our neighborhood as well? So, great job, and look forward to the walkthrough as to how to access it.
Great,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Mayor, just on that same point, I mean, our Public Information Office is so good at these information videos to explain what's on there. I mean, the streets are very interesting, of course, to our citizens, as well as all those projects that are, coming up. And so, I mean, is that part of what you're doing too? Right on your page, you'll have something produced by Randy's office, and we see these things all the time, and they're so good. Or will you do that yourself?
Well, I would prefer to work with professionals on that. Being Felicia and Eric, not myself.
Well, they're so.
I have made
don't
videos
blame
myself
you.
before, but they're not awesome. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea of having a video available and walking through the steps and everything.
And in general, we have so much going on in the city of Dubuque. I just love it when people can make it explainable to our citizens, and then they say, "Wow, I didn't even know that."
Right.
Because there's so much there, and just your little presentation just opened the door to a lot of things I didn't know we had either. So
Right.
thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of talk these days about trust in government. And a lot of that conversation, I think, boils down to the fact that people don't often know or don't know enough about what it is that we are doing. I think this is another great example of the ways that this city makes it really clear what's going on. I think we all know in this room that we get together annually and talk about in great detail all the things that are going on, but not everybody's here to listen to that. To have this tool right here online all the time for people to say, okay, if we're going to spend money on capital improvement projects over, as you mentioned, over a multi-year period, what are they? How can I go and find out what they are? To be able to direct somebody to this and let them see that right away, it's just an incredible tool for us to be able to be transparent, build trust, show everybody what's going on. I think it's really, really good work. So thank you very much for doing it.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
All right. Well, there is no further business in the work session. Thank you very much for that presentation. We will be adjourned till 6:30 for the regular meeting.